of the busiest cities in the world. Every week there's a new restaurant opening, a new event happening. So how do we stick to our language learning goals with such a busy lifestyle? My name is Michelle, I'm the Intrepid Guide, and I'll be teaching you a few of my top tips for how to learn a language with such a busy lifestyle. You're busy, I'm busy, we're all busy. I have a full-time job and I run the Intrepid Guide full-time as well, you might say. And this year I've decided that I'm going to learn Norwegian on top of that. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to share with you my top tips for the next year as I learn Norwegian. One of the best ways to kick off your language learning goals is to sign up for a language night course, which is what I've done. In October of last year, I signed up to Cactus Language School's night class, which is perfect for me. It's just a 15-minute bus ride from work, and it holds me accountable. So that means that no matter how much or how little I've been able to study on my own time throughout the week, I know that I've got a 2-hour block where I can hang out with friends and learn the language in a relaxed and fun environment. So I've already made some really good progress, even though I've only been going to class once a week ever since October. It's just a 2-hour class, but it's paying off already. So for example, I was in Tromsø in Norway over the Christmas period, and I could already start to understand a lot of the conversations that were happening around me. One of the conversations that stood out was one between my guide and the driver. The guide was asking the driver what his holiday plans were, and he was asking him about where he was going, and have you been to Spain before? Yes, I have. Oh, do you speak Spanish? Yes, I do. And I'm like, wow, they were speaking at a normal pace. It wasn't slowed down, and I could understand quite a lot, even with the Northern Norwegian dialect. So it doesn't matter how much time that you've been exposed to the language, progress can be made quite quickly. Out of all the tips that I give you, I think this is the one that works the best for me. Now that is to optimize every piece of time of your day. So it's hard to make new time, but you can optimize the time that you already have. It's sort of the downtime. So the downtime for me is when I'm commuting to work. So on the train, I will do a 5-minute lesson on an app. I will listen to some music or listen to a podcast. Then when I'm at work, and I don't know if you're allowed to do this, but I listen to Norwegian music. Then in the evening, just before I go to bed, what do you do before you go to bed? Well, we're usually on our phones, but you can use 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to play around with a Monly, a Duolingo, or a Memrise lesson, and that all helps. It all contributes to helping you get closer to your language goals. Maintain your exposure to the language throughout the day. No matter how much time or how little time that you can dedicate to learning the language, make sure that you factor it into your day. Maybe it's in the morning, 5 minutes over breakfast, maybe it's in your commute, or maybe it's 5 minutes before you go to bed. Whatever you do, just make time for it. With such a busy lifestyle, every piece of time that you have is precious, so make sure that you're making the most of it and that you're actually enjoying the language learning process. I like to say that if it's not fun, then you shouldn't be doing it. Find something that you enjoy. If there's a TV show that you really like, see if you can find it with subtitles in the language that you're learning. If you respond well to deadlines, then maybe you should set yourself one. For me, I'm setting myself a short-term goal of becoming as conversational in Norwegian as possible. In the coming months, I'll be going to Trondheim in Norway for a study holiday that my language school Cactus have organised for me. I'll be going to Trondheim for 2 weeks where I'll be having language classes in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'll be going sightseeing. But I want to make the most of this trip, so I'm going to be practicing as much Norwegian as possible ahead of that trip. So if you have anything that you're working towards, or you don't, maybe you should try and find something to set your goals on and work towards it that way. We live in a time of social media, and social media, if you're not careful, can be a real time suck. So compare 5 minutes on Instagram to compare to 5 minutes of how much you can learn on a language learning app. So my tip to you is if you're following any language related Instagram feeds, which I highly recommend, make sure that you turn on the notifications for those accounts, and make sure that you don't have the notifications on for other non-language related accounts. This way that every time you go back into Instagram, you'll see the language related feeds first before you see the other ones. Being able to look back and see how much progress you made is a really great way to keep yourself motivated, but you can only actually see the progress that you've made if you actually track your progress. So how can you do this? One of the best ways is to record yourself. So on our phones we all have apps where you can record yourself speaking, so why not start recording yourself? You don't have to let anyone else listen to it if you're a bit embarrassed. Just record yourself saying a few sentences every day, and then over time when you look back at those, you can actually see how your pronunciation has changed and also how much more vocabulary you've been able to pick up. Learning a language isn't a race. We are all on our own journey, so don't compare yourself to other people. I have 2 full-time jobs pretty much, and I see other people that can learn Norwegian or other languages a lot quicker than I can, simply because they have more time than I do. So don't look to the side, just look straight ahead and focus on your own goal. Let's be realistic, life does get in the way. So if you've been studying the language for a month, a week, or whatever it is, and you can't study for the foreseeable future, don't let that discourage you when you do want to go back to the language. Anything that you've already learned will be a little bit easier to pick up once you revise it, so don't let that hold you back. With the limited time that you have, make sure that you're still exposing yourself to different aspects of the language equally. That includes listening, reading, writing, and speaking. I do this by going to class, and then when I'm not in class, then I will learn the language with the language learning apps. But my top tip for that is not to get sucked into the gamification of these apps. The apps are very good at spurring you on and making you get to the next level, but you need to make sure that you're actually absorbing what you're learning. Remember to write the words down that you're learning, put them in sentences, put them in Quizlet for flashcards, but make sure that you're just not rushing through them. Well, that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed these top tips for learning a language with a full-time job. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. If you'd like to learn more about the language school that I'm attending in London, I'm going to leave a link to that below as well. And if you want to watch my video in Tromsø where I'm speaking a little bit of Norwegian, I'll link that as well. If you've got any comments or questions, just leave them below. In the meantime, leave a nice big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!